Hey, what is up everyone? Today we're going to talk about tools. Tools that you need to build a guitar. I'm saying need in air quotes because needing is relative in my opinion. You have two things. You have time and money. And you have to evaluate for yourself what do you want to spend more or give away. Do you want to spend money on tools that take away time that you need to build? Or do you want to spend time instead of money to invest into making something by hand or with handheld tools? Keep that in mind as we go through this list. So first of all, you will need a workshop, a room, a shed, a garage, whatever, but you need a separate room to build stuff. Building a guitar or generally working with wood is a dusty thing. You will need or you will want a workshop where you can just leave your stuff and continue the next day. Ideally with a workbench, some surfaces just to work with to place the tools. Good lighting is important. If you can't see what you're doing, not ideal. I am not really going to talk about the basic tools that you need. You will need a basic selection of tools, woodworking tools. If you're living in an apartment and all you have is maybe 2 screwdrivers and a hammer, generally, let's just pause for a minute. You just have to be a DIY person to begin with. If you are thinking about building a guitar, if you should or should not, do you enjoy doing stuff with your hands? Are you able to? For me, it's quite normal just to create stuff and do stuff with my hands. Let's talk again about that basic selection of tools. I mean, screwdrivers, chisels, hammer, straight edge, clamps. Common luthier joke is you can never have enough clamps, which is really true. I have been fortunate enough to get a lot of stuff for free because I'm working in my grandpa's basement and he has a shit load of tools already. I have a room, I have a workbench, I have so much tools already. I didn't have to buy the jigsaw, the drill, the sander and all that stuff that he already bought. It's all AEG stuff. I also have that AEG clamping bank, which is really handy to just clamp stuff down when you're working on the guitar. By the way, nothing is sponsored by AEG or any brand that I'm talking about here. Let's talk about specific tools to build a guitar, not necessarily for woodworking in general, but specifically to build a guitar. I think number one on that list is the router. I bought a Bosch POF 1400 for 117 euros in a local shop, and I think that is the most important electrical tool that you want to buy for guitar. I think there's almost no way around it. You could make cavities with a hand drill and chisels. But router with a variety of router bits, copy router bits, small ones for the truss rod channel. Next on the list, less necessary I think, but really helpful, is a spindle sander. I bought one off eBay from a German brand, Schapach, for 120 euros, which is absolutely worth the money. It works perfectly. It comes with various sizes of sanding drums, and it has a vacuum connection, so it is not really producing any dust in your workshop, which is really nice. What are you using that for? Mainly to contour the body edges. After you sawed them out with the jigsaw, it helps you get really smooth edges and straight edges, so it's helping you squaring them again. Next up on my list, I have the rasp that I'm using. It's a Shinto made in Japan rasp. It was about 25 euros, as I can see on my list here. Got it from Feinewerkzeug.de in Germany. Absolutely worth it. These rasps are fantastic. You have two sides, a finer side and a harsher side. The amount of wood that you can remove with that harsh side is superb. And the handling is really nice, and it's a breeze to carve a neck with that rasp. Absolutely recommendable. Next on my list, a fret saw. Now you might have a saw already, but the width of the cut is quite important here. Got that from RAL Guitars in Germany for 32 euros. Next up, fret stuff again. I think the most important tools here and most specific tools are fretting tools because that's quite specific. So next on my list is fret nippers. I got mine from TLC Guitar Goods in the Netherlands, almost 38 euros, which sounds quite expensive. It is, but these are absolutely hardcore nippers. I bought them because I work with stainless steel frets on my last build. I had normal nippers for the nickel frets, which are absolutely fine. But for this job, I wanted to get some proper nippers, and these just cut the stainless steel like butter. Next up, not really necessary, but nice to have, is a fretting hammer. I got mine from Guitars and Woods for 11 euros. It has two sides, one plastic side and a brass side to hammer in the frets. Next up, fret leveling file. Very, very handy to file off the fret edges once you cut them off. Didn't use it for leveling per se, but to level the edges of the frets, it's very, very handy. Next up, a leveling beam, also 20 euros, also from Guitars and Woods. Again, not really necessary. You could use a long straight piece of wood, but it's nice to have. It's a nice aluminum, perfectly machined tool, and it just, yeah, helps you get the job done. Next up, very, very important, triangular fret file with a blunt edge on the bottom. Guitars and Woods, 13 euros. Invest those 13 euros. It will do the crowning of the fret so much easier. And I know I'm a Ben Crow fanboy, so I'm going to say what he says. And these files where you have a concave piece in the middle where the teeth are bullshit, in my opinion, because you are working without seeing what you're doing. Wasn't happy with the results and the workflow that I had, so I recommend the triangular fret file. Fret slot depth gauge, really important. Guitars and Woods, $2.99, very cheap, very affordable. Has various radiuses which lets you check the depth of the fret slot. So when you're cutting, you can just check regularly if it's deep enough, because it has to be deep enough so the fret can completely sit into the cut, which is important. A radiusing beam. There are a few available of aluminium and wood. I have a wood one, a short one from Guitars and Woods for 9 euros, 16-inch radius. It's depending on what radius you want, but that's a very useful tool. I don't radius the fretboard just with that beam. I use a jig that I made myself to use my router to get the basic radius in, and then use that sanding beam to get the final radius perfectly in place. Next up, not really necessary, but nice to have too, is some black electrical shielding paint, which is conductive. Guitars and Woods, 15 euros. It's quite expensive, and I spilled half of it in the beginning of the year when I built my second guitar. So yeah, I don't know, it gives a nice look in the cavity, makes it really, really nice. You could use some copper tape or whatever, which is probably cheaper. Next up on the list, super glue. Your good friend, the super glue. You will need this to glue in the frets for the side dots. It's easy to work with. Got mine from Guitars and Woods for 4.50 euros. Then I got water-based grain filler from Guitars and Woods, 7.10 euros. I didn't use grain filler on my first two builds. You don't have to. It is additional work, but trust me, I used grain filler on this one, and the surface is so incredibly smooth, and it makes the finishing process easier, in my opinion, because I think the surface just sucks in less oil, and it helps you create a smoother surface quicker. So that's where you're going to save time in the end. Generally, you will need measuring tools of all sorts. A fret rocker, the fret slot gauge, straight edges, squared things. I mean, all sorts of measuring tools, because you will need to measure a lot when building a guitar. Measure, 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 measure. Next up on the list, a scraper. I got mine from RAL Guitars again, €7.50. Very, very, very handy tool. Underrated tool in my opinion. I didn't use one in my first two builds, but it is really, really nice. If you are carving a neck, if you are carving a bevel with the Shinto rasp, it leaves quite some marks. To sand these marks away takes really long. The scraper helps you remove a lot of material, but it helps you create a smooth surface at the same time. So that saves a lot of time and gives you the ability to sculpture the wood in an easy way and in a smooth way. Next up, spanners. Got mine from feinewerkzeuge.de. Very, very expensive, €30 each. I have two, so €60. I used them once, up to now, to glue the top together, because that's quite a big piece of, two big pieces of wood that need to come together. I will use it in the future, of course, but last but not least, I just put Miscellaneous on the list. $100, I don't know, just for random stuff. Sandpaper, maybe a new router bit, because for example, for the reinforcement rods, they had a different width, so I needed to buy a new router bit. They are usually between, it depends, they start from €15 up to €40 for a router bit of very, very high quality. Depends on what quality you want. However, these costs are not for every build. I mean, they are once, and you can use the stuff again for the next build and the next build and the next build. Usually, if it's good stuff, so buy good stuff. To be fair, I did not have most of this stuff for my very first build. I used what I had as much as I could to save money, and it worked alright. And once I figured, okay, I want to do this again, I want to do this more precisely, I started investing in more and more tools. And yeah, that's how it works. So you have to figure out for yourself, how much do you want to invest in a project like this? Do you want to invest time or money? Or both? Hope this list was helpful. Again, just like on my last video about the materials list, I have the list of suppliers down below. It's basically the same suppliers that I bought the materials, the raw materials from, but I'll put the links down below. Very nice places to buy stuff. So far I can tell it's good quality stuff. And yeah, again, not being sponsored by any of this. I was really happy to inspire so many of you to start building your own guitar, or wanting to build your own guitar. It makes me really happy, because I just like to spread inspiration and motivation. If you feel that you can do this, do it, because it's absolutely worth it. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay healthy in these weird times again, and I will see you next time.